So Moore's law is sort of the law of the computer industry that says compute power doubles every 24 months or so. And that's sort of put out there by experts in technology development as sort of the prototype. That's the thing that you really shoot for, Moore's law, but nobody ever keeps up with Moore's law except the computer industry. So it's saying we actually track and have been tracking really the past 15 years in terms of the cost for DNA sequencing, and trying our best to keep up with Moore's law. And we actually did keep up with Moore's law really quite effectively near the end of the Genome project, and even in a number of years, about 4 or 5 years after the Genome project, using the old-fashioned method that we used to use for DNA sequencing. But we had sufficiently industrialized those methods that it actually allowed us to keep up with Moore's law. And then what happened? About 2007, our major groups switched over to these fancy new methods. They're called next-generation DNA sequencing methods. And almost overnight, and have just continued to do it up to the present time, they outstrip Moore's law by far. And it's really been truly remarkable. The costs of DNA sequencing have plummeted tremendously, so that first human genome sequence that was completed 10 years ago cost $1 billion, and now we can sequence a human genome today in a matter of a day or two, and it costs well under $10,000, really just a few $1,000s. And if you follow the curves, which we've been following, you can see, particularly over the last 6 years, we have outpaced Moore's law by far. So among the many exciting developments in genomics, really continues to be new technologies for sequencing DNA. We've come a long way and have incredibly powerful methods today, but there's new ones coming, and we continue to invest in the development of new technologies because we see the importance of it. There's a particular new methodology that's getting a lot of attention in the genomics community these days. It's called nanopore sequencing. It really is just these molecules that sit in lipid bilayers, and the strands of DNA sort of get pulled through it, and literally we're able to detect every single base on that DNA ladder one at a time as it gets pulled through the nanopore. It's just way cool. But what's particularly cool about it is that the technologies can be reduced to really small form. And one of the companies that's manufacturing is releasing an instrument this year that basically looks like a USB device. In fact, it is a USB device. It's a little bit bigger than a thumb drive. And literally it plugs into the USB port of a laptop computer. And I haven't seen it operate yet, but I'm told it can sequence a human genome in something like a day. We'll have to see when it's released how it really performs. But the notion, and whether it's that company, or whether it's this year, whether it's another company, that's another year, it's not science fiction to believe that we will have these little USB devices sitting in our laptop that can read out human genome sequences in the next year or 2 or 3. One of the things I think is particularly cool with this first company that's launching these USB devices is that the company tells me that the USB device that will sequence a human genome will work equally well in a PC or a Macintosh computer, which makes me think they've thought of everything.